In today's society, we must think differently. Join me while we talk to Jeffery Hill about how to conquer our finances in turbulent times. Welcome to a brand new episode of Half-Ass to Badass. How do entrepreneurs, business owners, and experts influence themselves, their clients, and teams to maximize profitability, efficiency, and create lasting impact? How do they simplify life and business and yet still achieve more? What's the one thing separating the mediocre from the best? This podcast will give you the answers and reveal the secret strengths and the not so easy to admit flaws of the elite. My name is Satoru Mateo, and welcome to the Half-Ass to Badass podcast. Today we have a beautiful, amazing guest, and we are excited to have you on the show, Jeff. First of all, let's tell our audience here a little bit, what's your background? How did you get into the space of wealth?
Man, so very good question. Like many of you probably, I started from humble beginnings. When I say humble beginnings, I grew up on free lunch. Time to time, we run government programs and subsidies called commodities back in the day. One of those things where I remember growing up watching Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And I remember sitting down there looking at people that were always on vacation, had beautiful backgrounds and sceneries and all that. And I'm like, wow, what would that be like to feel that? What is it? Is the water really that blue? Those kind of things. Now, mind you, I grew up in Arkansas. Okay. So if you guys don't know Arkansas is called the natural state in the US. And it's a very beautiful place, but it's definitely country. So I grew up around a lot of woods and trees. Definitely no beaches, no crystal blue water, no palm trees, none of that, right? So growing up, my parents really couldn't teach me a lot about money, right? They didn't know Chinese, I like to say. So that means they couldn't teach me a language that they didn't know. So money definitely has a unique language that all of us need to learn. We need to learn money's calling and how to make it respond to us. So over the course of my life, I've always been a very hard worker. I just found a way to kind of hustle and use my talents to go earn income, whether that was raking leaves, cutting leaves, doing odd jobs around people's houses, whatever I could do that would go make money so I can go have fun and do stuff that I wanted because my parents couldn't always show up for me financially like I wanted them to. Well, back then, the age-old idea was go to high school, get good grades, go to college so you can get a good job. And I followed that model and I found myself with a degree in corporate America, trying to figure out what in the world that I had done, right? Now, my background in college was math communication, and I had a double minor in theater and MIS. And I remember when I got my first degree, I'm like, all right, let me jump out there and see what this degree would do for me. Because again, I grew up in the country and in Arkansas, so it was very small-minded. I used to think like $50,000 was a lot of money, right? So I would remember saying, man, if I could just make $50,000, I'm thinking about doing the math and the rent. I was like, man, I'll be able to save so much money and I can go do whatever I wanted to until I started, getting that kind of money. And I realized this doesn't really go as far as I thought. So after bumping my head trying to climb the corporate ladder for a while, the entrepreneurial calling of me just kept getting louder and louder and louder. So I made the crazy bold move in 2009 to leave a corporate paid every week, no nights, no weekends, salary position. I mean, on a long week, I would probably work 40 hours. I never worked more than 2 days in a row. Literally Monday, Tuesday, I was off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was off the weekend. Now, most people might say, Jeff, that's the setup. I would love that. And for a while there, I thought that, but then the calling inside of you, most of you can identify when you know there's something in you and your purpose is greater than what you're doing. It's extremely hard for you to stay in that small place because it's small mind and small thinking. But I knew my dreams were always bigger than that. So I was recruited by a Fortune 100 company. And I said, all right, there was a come to Jesus moment. That's for a different conversation, but it was real. I learned a lot about success just in that decision to walk away from that salary position. And I was recruited by a company that was in the financial services industry. Remember, that was not my background. My parents didn't teach me a lot about money. So I had to be really, really open to learn. I had to be a sponge. Leaders are always great readers. I had to learn how to read. Not that I couldn't read, but when you read for the understanding and application, it's different than just going through knowing what the word says on the page. In college, reading failed me. And what I mean by that is I read a book about, history or whatever, but the only reason why I had to apply that was to pass the test. When I got into personal development was something that I could use and I can implement immediately and nearly see the results, right? Now that's
So
the
you
test of life.
inspired you like learning about this topic, about money, about personal growth, personal development. It was something that inspired you, something that you valued.
Absolutely. I had to shift my paradigms. I didn't even know what a paradigm was, back then, but one of my mentors, Bob Proctor, taught me a lot about paradigms. And he showed me a picture of the stick man figure. If you've never seen it, oh man, it's brilliant when it shows you the conscious and the subconscious mind and how everything's expressed in the body and it creates your actions. I didn't know that, but what I was able to do was I was able to look at my life and the results, and I can attribute all of those results to the level of thinking that I was putting out there. Well, because I started thinking differently, opportunities came. Now, opportunity is different. Most people want an opportunity to be dressed up and pretty and cozy in a bow. Now, sometimes it looks like overalls and a shovel because you got to go put in the work. And I was no stranger to hard work. So I came and I said, Lord, if this is for me, open the doors and I'll go. The doors flew open and I remember having doubt, like, all right, I'm by myself. I got a new car for the first time, got a car note, got rent, got all these adulting bills by myself. What happens if I don't make it? What happens if I get out there? And I remember it was, God said, man, do you trust me? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, why are we having this conversation about doubt? And it kind of hit me in the face. And I was like, this is a faith-based move. This is a true test of faith. And if I truly have faith, then I can't not go. So I was like, all right, put it on what you love. And I went out there and, it wasn't always the easiest, but that faith and that perseverance is what kept me going. And I continue to read and invest in myself. And that's been one of the greatest investments that I have made was in myself. And I started studying wealthy people because I started to make more money. And as you make more money, you got to find out what do you do with the money, right? So let me go study people who have what I want, which is that lifestyle of the rich and famous, right? Yeah. I had to go see like what did they do, or what did they think, or what did they read to help them get there. And the more I'm
curious, who was your biggest influence, about around money? Who influenced you the most around money?
Bob Proctor. Proctor. There's a training I do, and one of the books he did a long time ago. It's called "It's Not About the Money." It's a phenomenal book. I remember my daughter is 8 months old now, and I remember reading that book to my daughter while she was in the womb. And man, just going through the chapters again, looking at how far my life had came since I first read the book. And I would get a line in the book and I would just go on a tangent about how this showed up in my life to help kind of impress that good energy into my daughter. And even now, that's my goal, is to continue to be an inspiration to my daughter, to show her what it looks like to have a different mindset, to get away from the thinking and the generational curses that plagued my family for years, which is that poverty mindset and that small mind thinking. So I attribute a lot from what I've learned from Bob Proctor. A lot.
So how important is money and wealth building to you?
Oh man, it's 100% important. For me, biblically, you want to leave an inheritance for your children's children. And adopting that philosophy, I have to get bigger than my current situation. The only way for me to do that is to be able to learn how to attract and earn more income so I can put that money toward the future. I'm a huge fan of building wealth through insurance tools. And the more money I can put away in insurance, I know I'll always have access to it. But I also know if something happens and I get called home early, so to speak, that's more money going toward the future generation. So what is that going to do? That's going to help jumpstart them to do more in real estate. Who knows 20 years from now what kind of AI tools are going to be in place? They're going to be able to, revolve money a lot faster. I just know if I can transfer wealth to the future, then my future selves or my future children and grandchildren will be thankful that I did it.
Yes. No, that's very important. And it's interesting to see, because people have so many different mindsets, so many different principles that they've been taught or been misinformed about, or misinformation today about wealth and money that's been passed through generations. So to be able to educate and discover what money and wealth actually could mean to people, that's a very important thing. What is most important in your perception, to make money or keep money?
Making money. So one of the things that Bob taught me is money flows to me effortlessly and easily in multiple currencies on a continuous basis. So when I think about that, I need to be able to flow more money, let money flow through me. If you think about a dam and you think about water being money, would you rather drink from a flowing river or would you rather drink from a pond? Okay, and we've always been taught if you have running water, that water is a lot cleaner and safer to drink than a stagnant pond. So the stagnation is just when I keep money, I'm trying to hoard it all to myself. That means I'm afraid. I'm afraid of releasing money. And if I'm afraid of releasing money, that means money should be afraid of me. That's how the law of attraction works. I'm putting negative energy thinking, oh, I got to save for a rainy day. I'm afraid to lose this. When I operate out of a spirit of abundance and I know how to transfer money and let it flow, then money should always return to its master. And one of the things that I wanted to do is be a master of money, not a slave to it.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. I love that. And one of the things that people think about and talk about a lot, that it takes money to make money. What is your belief around that?
I would say it can take courage to make money. So let's go back to me when I was like 11, 12 years old, right? All right. Now, a bit of this, you can say it takes money because somebody maybe had to buy the rake for me to go out and rake, or somebody had to put the gas in the lawnmower, buy the lawnmower. Sure. But what if my neighbor had their own lawnmower and they had their own rakes? And I said, listen, let me use your tools and I'll go cut your yard and I'll rake your leaves for you. It didn't take me money. It took me courage to go knock on their door and say, hey, can I provide a service? So I've always been willing to lend a helping hand. My love language, my primary love language is acts of service. So serving comes very naturally to me, right? So when I got in sales, it was just me transferring that energy to serve and figure out what can I do that can make your life a lot easier, okay? Yes. And most people do not want to get out in the heat of the summer and do yard work. But, 13, 14-year-old kid who wants to, raise some money to go play golf, most people say, you know what, at least you're willing to work for the money and you're trying to do something positive. I wasn't running in the streets. I wasn't drinking and smoking and doing all that kind of crazy stuff as a kid. I was out trying to figure out how I enhance another skill, right? So money is absolutely important. And it doesn't always take money. If you understand, sometimes there's real estate people who do these no money down deals. They're not trading their own money. They're trading their knowledge and they're using contracts to create money out of thin air. This is what banks do. Okay, let's think about a mortgage. When you went and bought that house, you didn't have $250,000 or $400,000 to buy that house cash. You went to the bank and said, listen, would you give me a mortgage? And they said, sure. Let's look at your credit. All right, let's look at this house you're buying. It makes sense. If you don't pay us back, we're going to keep that as an asset now. And all of a sudden they gave you a note. And then they said, you can just start to pay us back on a monthly basis. You don't have to pay us all back. And by the way, we're just going to charge you a little bit of interest for the next 30 years. Fair enough. You said, well, that's my house. I want it. Great. That was just thin air money. But because banks are really good at using contracts and pieces of paper to lock you in, now you think, oh, I got to pay them back because if not, they're going to take my home. And now they created money. You had to go work to find the money to pay them back, right? So, I would say it takes more courage to make money than it does money to make money. Now, granted, if you get courage first and then you get the money, you can always go find more money, right? But the idea is to make this money or take this money and learn how to use the courage again to put that into something else that's going to continue to make more money. If you've never read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, get it and read it 3 times. It's going to help you start to adopt a different philosophy around how you view money.
Yes, that's a great book. Great book. So interestingly enough, when people think about money and the idea that it's some kind of lack of money or lack of people that want to be able to receive your value, your service. And then we go into that poverty thinking. And I look at it as money is just being transferred for those people that have the least value of the least structure or organization around money. Absolutely. To those who have the most structure, most organization, and the value is more, right? There's no lack of money, and there's no, there's more money than, if we were to, lose money, we can just print new money, right?
Absolutely. The government is really good about creating money out of thin air. They just go print it by the trillions now. which is so freaking insane. But I mean, to your point, one of the things that I learned a while ago, and it kind of helped me spark the vision, was on this side, retirement 2.0, is when I learned that there are more millionaires created during recessionary periods versus any other time in history. It really threw me down this rabbit trail to try to figure out why, because I used to think recessions were bad. And I thought everybody was affected negatively in recessions. And I realized during that time frame, there's still no shortage of money. The only thing that's happened is money is starting to change hands to the people who know what to do with it. Again, money will always return itself to its master. So when you learn how to master money, it means you know how to put yourself in position to take advantage of recessions. So I started my financial services business back in 2009 in the heat of a recession. That's why I was so crazy, because most people, when they're trying to constrict and go into something that's safe, I'm literally quitting the security to go into 100% risk. It was 100% commission, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to make that car note or not, right? But the money was always there because I had to become abundant in my thinking and figure out, all right, what do I need to be speaking over my life, into my life? How do I need to be shifting my paradigms? How do I need to be unthinking all this stuff that I thought was right that wasn't, to create a new image of what wealth and abundance look like, to where people look at me and say, yeah, well, what are you selling? You know, like, sure, I'll buy it, I'll support it, because I became this attractive character to people and somebody that people could trust. Okay, so again, a lot of it is just really shifting everything that you do, because if you look at what you have right now, everything that you have in your bank account, in your life, that you have on, everything that you ate was all a decision point. And so when I learned how critical decisions were, man, I gotta be honest, it was scary, because I don't know what the stat is, but about how many decisions that you make throughout the day. But I remember just sitting there thinking, like, wait, let me just think about all the stuff that I've done today, and the thought processes and why I chose this suit and this tie and this shirt and this meal and that meal. Man, it's so crazy, because you can't stop thinking for the most part. So when you start to realize everything that you do is going to put you going forward or going backwards, is different. Matter of fact, let me give you guys this book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. This was the book that I was reading at that time when I started to really, really understand decisions. And he said, you know, like the example he uses in the book, if you go eat a cheeseburger right now, your life doesn't necessarily change. Not today, not tomorrow, maybe not a week from now. But those little compound decisions over time are either going to put you on the success curve or on the failing curve. And it was like the moment you stop, you don't just stay there. You start going either up or down. And when I said, if you stop, you're going down. You start to go backwards. And I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Because those little decisions start to compound over time, and it equals what your life looks like. So, man, it was that's why I love reading, to be able to pick up on those things that nobody taught me growing up. My mother taught me money doesn't grow on trees. She used to do this and say, do you see money falling? No, money doesn't grow on trees. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess we don't have any money. Oh, darn, right? Well, at some point in time, I had to realize that's a poverty mentality, that there's only a finite amount of money instead of an infinite amount of money out there, because it can always be printed or exchanged.
Yeah, and it's funny that you know we grew up in some completely different worlds. I mean, I grew up in Stockholm, Sweden, and and you grew up where you grew up, and we still heard the same thing: money doesn't grow on trees.
Absolutely. We might have had the same mother. She flew over there times when I thought she was at work. She was telling you the same stuff. but that hopefully that paints a good picture for you guys, that no matter where you are in the world, there's some iteration of this poverty mindset that has probably existed, and it was passed on and passed on and passed on. But somebody has to have the courage to say, okay, I know that's not true. Now, what do I do about it? So we heard like the phrase, if you know better, do better, right? But Bob Proctor says there's always a gap between what we know and what we do. So knowing doing gap. Yeah, we know we should be working out. What do we do? We know we should not spend money just because it's Black Friday or something's on sale, but we do it anyway. Now, again, I understand I wanting to have nice things, but sometimes it can be to your detriment, right? It's one thing when you invest in yourself and in your financial IQ. That's different. So one of the things he taught me is if you pour your wallet into your mind will fill your wallet. I spend more money in 1 year on personal development and coaching than I did probably for my whole 4 years of college. So think about that for a second. Let's say it's $40,000, $10,000 a year, whatever. $10,000 a year over 4 years, that's $40,000. I graduated in 4 years. I spend that much a year on personal development because I'm a forever student, and leaders are always great readers. But what I like about it is I get a return on my investment because I'm investing in myself. Now, because I've learned how to do this stuff and how to be more attractive, now I can go out and help other people raise their level of awareness. So now they can start to get what they want. I can transfer that knowledge and energy into them with the hopes that they're going to do something with it.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's so important to raise your own worth by providing more value for yourself and people. I'm curious to know, what is your wealth strategy? What is your personal wealth strategy? Where do you see yourself 10, 20, 30 years from now?
On a plane, on a PJ, flying around the world, teaching, not only teaching people, but I'm also teaching my children by action. I remember there's a famous corporation called Dillard's. Okay, if you know who Macy's is, Dillard's would be like a competitor for them. And I remember going to this lunch and learn, and I'm talking to the CEO, and I was like, all right, typically businesses don't survive 3 generations down, right? It's like a 7% chance the business will still be there by the 3rd generation, but you guys are still very successful. What was it? What was it that you were taught? And he said, it's not so much as what I was taught, but it's what I saw them do. I saw them go to work, and I saw them model, good habits. I saw them model integrity and things like that. So naturally, that's all I saw. So it was easy for me to step into that position and do what I've been seeing done from time to time. So I had to think about that. What am I modeling? My daughter is 8 years old, and she's a sponge. Okay, like the other day, I started coughing, and she was over there. It's just something as simple as that, right? But your kids are going to model what you do. So if I want to operate out of the spirit of abundance, I want them to see me going out teaching abundance. And if we have our private plane, they can't ignore that that's a level of abundance. So for me, 10 years from now is still having money coming in perpetuity from things that I'm doing now. It's literally creating residual income and the retirement 2.0 lifestyle. That's what that whole thing is about. I got remember on this side is being able to live your retirement dream. And I used to think retirement was when I press pause on all work, I've accumulated enough money to live off of. When I start learning kind of how that game really works, it will take me a very long time to probably accumulate the amount of money that I needed to live off of if I ever stopped working. But when I focused on cash flow, that's different. Now, if I have a set number, now I just need to go out and find enough sources of income that can give me that number that I'm satisfied with. And now I don't have to worry about, working for the rest of my life, right? Because most people who are only focused on accumulation, this is going to be the problem. This is why I talk so heavily about multiple sources of income over the traditional route. Now, again, by trade, I'm a traditional advisor. I'm in the traditional industry, but I'm a non-traditional advisor. I do a lot of alternatives to help people diversify and win the game without thinking they have to put all their money at the risk of the stock market. I teach people how to diversify, put more safety, liquidity, and control into their finances with the hopes that they find cash flow assets that can produce monthly paychecks now, and it can replenish that asset class so they have more options. So, it's different when I look at, it's a tug of war behind the traditional side and then the entrepreneur side. It's very different. So I kind of created a workable model that can walk in between those both lines, and I can help people on either side, without losing track of who I am, because I was once in that just save for the long haul mindset until I started tapping into abundance and sources of income, and I know what this side looks like. So I'm like, all right, I got to be able to bridge the gap for people who are not going to be able to save enough, that's going to be able to outperform inflation and the printing of the dollars, whatever currency you're in. They're still printing money, trust me, right? One source of income is not going to be enough. Okay, 7 at the minimum should be. And when I would hear somebody like Robert Kiyosaki says $1 million shouldn't be the target, you need to be striving for 10 million. And Grant Cardone says that as well, because we used to think, man, if I could just get to $1 million, all my troubles will go away. No, not at all. It's like when you're at $1 million, you're still broke. You're one lawsuit or one, injury away from that money being gone just like that. 10 million is to be your new target. So now that's 10 times what I thought was a lot of money. So if that's my new target, how do I grow into the person that can amass $10+ million? That's what I like about the journey of becoming. It's not about the money, Bob Proctor. Remember, it's not about the money. It's who do I become along the way to attract that level of money? Because like outside of flying around in a private jet right now, $5 million or whatever wouldn't change my lifestyle that much. Because I learned the phrase, build a life you don't have to vacation from. Right? And another one is rich people don't take vacation. They just live their life in different places of the world. So when I started looking at a lot of the mentors who had what I wanted, these guys have plenty of money. Warren Buffett is a billionaire, but he still works. All these billionaires that you know of and multimillionaires, a lot of these people are still working, but it's not for the money. They're not hustling for their first name. They're hustling for their last name, right? So when I looked at that, I was like, why do I want to stop producing when I love what I do and I have a true passion for helping people? I don't have to do it for the money. Should I be compensated for the work? Absolutely. But do we give away a lot of free stuff? Absolutely. But when you get to the point where you understand, money is always going to naturally come to you, it's so rewarding. You don't have that same pressure to go out there and produce. You get to just operate out of the spirit of abundance and just, man, the glow and the aura that surrounds you when you operate out of this is so much better. It's so much better for your quality of mind and living.
That's beautiful. I know you have a 4-step process that you talk about, Ryan, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sure. So when you think about the framework, earn, keep, multiply, transfer. Okay. And somebody might be at the earning spot, right? How do you earn money? Well, if you ever heard of the cash flow quadrant, it's, the ESBI, Robert Kiyosaki made this famous. It's employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. Okay. Most of us started as an employee. I fortunately started as kind of self-employed because I didn't work for anybody when I was cutting yards. That was my own thing. Okay. Now, when you are an employee, you're trading time for dollars. Somebody tells you how much you are worth, and they say, here's your hourly or here's your salary. So no matter what you do, you typically have to wait for somebody else to pay you more. Self-employed is I own a job. Still, if I'm not there working, a lot of times money isn't made. When you tap into the B side, it's business. You either have people at work or systems at work. So the more you can put people or systems at work, the more money you can make. You don't always have to be there. The investor quadrant is I have my money at work. So when you look at this cash flow quadrant, 95% of the people are on the E&S side, but only 5% of the wealth. On the BNI side, you only have 5% of the population, but 95% of the wealth. Well, that's a clue. So if I want to be wealthy, then I need to learn how to shift to the B and I side with the emphasis of this extra money I got. I need to put it into other sources that can continue to cash flow. So with that framework, earn, keep, multiply, transfer kind of takes you on their journey. How do we earn money? Yes, you have your job, but let's say your goal is to get to $100,000. Okay. And you're making 70 now. That means you're $35,000 or $30,000 short, $2,500 a month. So what happens if I teach you how to earn an additional $2,500 a month? That can be affiliate marketing. That can be paid ads. That can be, doing social media marketing for somebody, or I don't know, whatever, you name it, right? All of a sudden, now you got an extra $2,500 coming in. Now you hit your $100,000 mark. Now that doesn't, you don't stop there, because one, you got to learn how to keep that money. If I teach you how to make an extra $2,500 a month, hopefully you're not spending that. It's not, I can go get all the Chanel and Birkin bags and whatever name brand you like. For me, I like to wear my own designs now. I like to wear my own brands. Nike does not pay me to wear their stuff. Now, you still see me with some Pumas on or whatever, sure. Until I learn how to get my own shoes made, you're probably going to see that, right? But why would I not brand myself as opposed to all these other people? I have no loyalty to them. They're not giving me residuals for doing that. So I need to find a way for me to put my brand and likenesses out there. So the next thing I show people is how to keep their money. How do you set up systems that you can put your money in an account, and it kind of gives you a slap on the wrist if you want to touch it. You still got access to it, but ideally you want to put this in an account that doesn't exist. Because the worst thing you can do is say, well, I just want to take it out because I can. Now you're robbing from your future. So you got to earn, you got to learn how to keep it. People who are really good at keeping money, I don't want you to sink into that poverty mindset to where, it's stagnant now. Oh, it looks good because I got 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 in the bank. I want you to be thinking, I'm saving up this money for the intent to deploy it into something else that produces cash flow. So Grant Cardone says, always keep yourself broke. Why do you think he says that? If you keep yourself broke, you always trying to hustle. Now, eventually, you're going to learn how to earn, keep, multiply. When you multiply, how can I put this 50,000 up and make it turn into $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month? Or maybe you put 50 to buy a multifamily property, and now it's worth 750. It produces 4,000 a month, and now you got equity and appreciation and all this other kind of stuff. And the most important thing is transfer. I don't want to die with a lot of money in my control, no way to distribute it and transfer it to other generations. Okay. And there are certain financial tools that are better than other ones for that. So I teach people to earn, keep, multiply, transfer their wealth. But hopefully, guys, ultimately, you're going to create a life over this time frame. You're going to learn how to literally uproot yourself and go anywhere in the world and learn how to produce income. I remember hearing people say, drop me in any city in the world, and within a year, I'll be right back to a six-figure at least income. And I'm like, wow, what? That's crazy. That's $100,000, right? Now I get it, right? I get it now because once you've done it one time, you can do it a lot faster. Your first million is always the hardest. Your first 100,000 is always the hardest. Once you do it, now you know what work it takes. You got more capital to do it faster.
Yeah, just beautiful. I know you have 3 secrets to share with us, and we had this conversation that day, and it was fascinating. A lot of people, we were doing a live together, and people were writing in and asking questions and wanted to know more about it. Why don't you share with us your 3 secrets to building wealth, but also not only building wealth, but also as a way to be able to bulletproof yourself in any recession or any uncertain times?
Awesome, man. One of the things I heard Warren Buffett say is never waste a good recession. Everything is typically on sale during a recession. But what happens is most people haven't put themselves in position to take advantage of it. The best time to get capital is when you don't need capital. Okay. So if your credit score is high right now, you're making a lot of money and you don't I don't need to go to the bank and get a line of credit or a credit card. Probably the best time to go do it. Right. So what I teach people early is let's go out and get capital. When I started my business, man, I was about 3 months in. I had a lot of cases that I was working on that they hadn't paid out yet. And I'm sitting there like, how am I going to make this work? Man, these cases just pay. I would have enough money. If I would have had access to capital, it would have been a lot easier for me to go, use my credit card to pay the rent until my money came in and paid it off. Luckily, I had money in the old retirement account that I cashed out, right? So I did that to keep myself afloat. And now I'm still 13 and a half years in the industry. But I probably shouldn't have lasted 6 months in by industry standards, right? So Get capital. Secret number 1 is how I teach people how to get $50,000 to $150,000 of credit within the next 90 days. A lot of that is learning how to do what's called credit card stacking. So that's a unique strategy to where you pull up the web pages and you go do the research on what cards bank with who and report to what agency, and you stack all those together and you submit them in a certain order to where now your approval goes a lot faster. The credit bureaus don't have enough time to know that you applied, and bam, now you got 3, 4, 5, 6 credit cards with 10, 15, 20, 7, or whatever kind of limits. And then I teach people how to take that and start to cycle through that money a lot faster. So naturally they increase your limit. So like within the last year, I've probably gotten an additional, maybe close to $200,000 in capital within the last 2 years. Now, that's secret number 1 is how to do credit card stacking the right way so you can get access to the capital. Now, if you understand credit cards and how they work, you can't just go to the credit card and say, hey, listen, I want a cash advance. Okay. Now, I did this accidentally the other day, and I need to call the bank and see if they can reverse that process. But I took money from my credit card and I put it into my bank account. In my mind, I was actually paying off one of my credit cards, but I did it the wrong way. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a cash advance. Cash advances, they charge you a higher percentage. They might charge you 30% on that money, which I don't want to pay 30% on that money whatsoever, right? But there's a way for you to learn how to liquidate your credit cards, meaning you can pull cash from them and it's just like a regular purchase. So what happens if you've gotten cards out there with, an introductory rate of 0% for the first 18 to 24 months? All of a sudden, now when I pull that cash out, I can deploy that cash into any other tool, and I'm not having to worry about paying interest. Now, typically when you do it in the business card, for example, normally they charge you, your monthly fee is like 1% of whatever you charge. So if you got $20,000, $200 is what you have to pay on a monthly basis as a minimum, right? And then remember, it's 0% interest. So I'm not having to worry about 200 going to 205, 210 because of interest. It's just 200 a month, right? But that's also bringing that down. So naturally that payment is going to go down a little bit. Now, again, if you're doing this the right way, you took this 20,000 out. Let's say you started an e-commerce store because you bought into a system that somebody's going to run it for you. And you just paid them 30%. Great. Liquidate however much you need to get that store started, and now let it start the cash flow. This is what I mean by creating cash flow. So now I got access to capital, and I deployed the capital in secret number 2 by liquidating the credit card. And now that credit card is, I took debt and I created wealth. Wealthy people use a lot of debt to create wealth. A lot of us are afraid to do that because we know we have abused a credit card before. Black Friday came around, or a vacation deal came around and said, ooh, $10,000, I deserve it because I work hard. And you had no way of paying that back. All right. This is why I say, if you're going to use credit, use it for a business that can produce cash flow. Now, I personally do not use my bank debit card. I use credit cards for everything because I also want the points. So stuff that I'm naturally spending money on, instead of me taking it out of my bank, I'm going to swipe my credit card for my phone bill or whatever because I want the points and I'm going to pay it off anyway, just like if I took it out of the bank account. So again, you can safely now start to liquidate your credit cards. Another piece in this, which is the third secret, is how to do what's called manufactured spending. Now, just like you, most of you probably like lifestyle, right? You probably want to go and travel around the world and eat at some of the cool places and have some of these cool experiences. Well, if you understand how credit cards work, they have these introductory rates, or they say, if you spend $15,000 in the first, 90 days, we're going to give you 100,000 bonus points. And you might say, Brad, okay, I'm looking at my finances. My bills are only $2,000 a month. That's $6,000. Where am I going to get this other, $9,000 from? I got to go spend $9,000 of debt. You don't. Okay. So one of the things that I did in December, I got a call from my Amazon team and said, listen, we need $15,000 in capital because we're transitioning our business model to do FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. And I was like, okay, do I want to take $15,000 out of my bank account? No, because when I do that, that money can no longer earn any interest. But what I can do is do manufactured spending. So I went out, I bought a whole bunch of furniture. I bought some golf clubs. I bought all this kind of crazy stuff. That was about, I don't know, maybe $12,000 worth of money, right? And then I returned it within like 48 hours and said, oh, you know what? We decided not to get that house. We don't need to stage it. And they said, okay, put your card in. I put my debit card in. So remember, I bought it on my credit card. And when I did the return, I had to return to my debit card. And now 7,000 hits my debit card. And all of a sudden I use another debit card and 4,000 hit that card. So all of a sudden I did that. And now I'm sitting with like $12,000 of capital that I can move over here from my Amazon team. And now if it's only at 1%, that's $111, $110 that I'm having to pay back until my Amazon store starts to produce. Now I manufacture spend. And what happened with the credit card is they saw $7,000 swipe. Now, typically, if you're not putting this into an asset, what you're doing is paying the bill right back off. Okay. So now if I spend $7,000 getting furniture and I take it back, I'm going to go ahead and take my bank money and pay that credit card off immediately. So now the credit card company sees he just spent $7,000 and paid it off. Okay, great. But remember, I got all these bonus points now. Now I can use those bonus points and I can get them to turn it into cash. They can send me a check or deposit right into my bank account. Or if I have a card that has cash back, I might get 5% cash back or 1.5% cash back on spends. So think about if you start to really stack these spends throughout the month. Number one, if I'm maxing out my card and I'm paying it off, within the next 60 days, they're probably going to raise my limit. So now I have more capital, but I'm not really spending my own money and I'm getting all this cash back and all these points in the process. So these are 3 secrets for you to take credit and turn it into cash. I know a guy in one of my groups that's his weighting was $53,000. and he took a year and he did manufacturer spending for the entire year to pay for his wedding. So he spent none of his own money. So think about it. How many of you would love to make an extra $53,000 a year shopping, and all you're doing is leveraging credit cards? And now you can take that cash back and still go then buy the stuff that you want. You can go buy the jeans, you can take the vacations, because now you're not really spending your own money, right? That's the difference. And I used to see these people who doing credit card hacks. They would go have like 70 different cars. And I'm like, how do you even get that many cars? And they were just using all these points and transfer them to the one that's giving them the best perks. And now they're getting upgraded flights on Emirates or Qatar, and they're staying in some of the best hotels, eating some of the best foods, all based on points. And a lot of them are using manufacturer spending. Now, for my business owners, what happens if I start spending $30,000 a month or more buying stuff for Amazon, and I'm turning around selling it on my store? Now that's 30. Well, if I'm getting 4x, that's 120,000 points a month that I'm getting. What if I'm doing also cash back? Do you see how big this starts to get? That's the value of starting businesses, because businesses, you're going to get higher credit limits. And you can also transfer the personal debt to the business. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. But those are 3 secrets. So credit card stacking, then you got how to liquidate your credit cards and how to do manufacturer spend to produce additional cash flow and extra points.
That's beautiful. That's amazing stuff. I think that probably people are listening to this right now. They're like, their heads are spinning, because these are all beautiful ideas, cool ideas. But I think that a lot of people are too afraid to take action because they don't really understand how to do it, and they don't want to mess up.
Right.
So I think that I know we talked about doing a special kind of training, a special kind of challenge to take people through, to teach them a little bit deeper around this stuff. And so keep an eye out for our special training that we're going to provide for you, so you can actually learn a bit deeper around how to actually apply this and actually how to do it. And if you want to learn more about this, and we'll definitely going to keep you updated on more information on how to actually get it done.
Absolutely, guys. Like the stuff that I'm teaching is what I've done, or I'm in close proximity to somebody who is actively doing it. Because of course I can't do all the strategies that I learned. I don't have enough time for that. But again, I'm running with people who are doing this. And that's the value of being in groups and masterminds and stuff like that, because you get to learn. There's a lot of free content out there. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't value stuff that's free because it was free. It didn't really cost us anything. So we figure, oh, I can do that whenever I want to. But for me, the reason why I started spending more is because I wanted the accountability, number one, to say to myself, I'm worth it. I know so many people, they feel so comfortable giving away a lot of money every single month to other people, to mortgages and cars and all that. When I talk about reinvesting in themselves, it's, I don't know about that. Like, why do you deserve to pay yourself $40,000 a year, but you're willing to pay that to a mortgage or the interest to anybody else? You're willing to give all this money away, but at some point in time, we have to be a little selfish and think about the first investment I need to make is in me. So when the offer goes out, join, learn, apply. Okay, we'll figure some of this stuff out together. But again, our goal is to help you, because I like to take the objections away. I don't want people to say, well, I never had a shot. Did you try? Can't never could until they tried. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn this stuff. And when I saw it, I remember the guy talking about, man, these are action takers. And I was like, I want to be called an action taker. So I immediately got the ebook and I said, let me go try this stuff. And it started working. And I'm like, it works. Now let me figure out how to deploy this into other things. And again, I did, and I got the results. Yeah,
that's beautiful. I got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
One is a challenging question, and one is a inspirational. Well, they can both be inspirational. But the question is, what has been one of your toughest financial lows in life?
Oh, toughest financial lows. Man, this is probably the first time I probably shared this. I got a car repossessed one time. Man, it was crazy. Let me tell you, building a business is not always pretty. When you start to build more than one business at the exact same time, that can get a little iffy. Okay. So I remember this was back in 2016, I think. I was building the network marketing company. And again, like remember, my business is financial services. My financial services company at the time said, we don't want you building outside business activity and network marketing. But I really felt strongly about this particular company because it was in travel. And again, I love to travel. So I just kind of started building as I was transitioning away. And unfortunately, when I left the company so I could build network marketing, I left about $3,000 of residual income on the table. So now the only income that I was really bringing in was from the network marketing company. But again, it wasn't enough to shadow my bills. That $3,000 at that time paid all my bills plus money, right? So technically, I was retired by standards of having enough cash flow to pay for my bills. And I did that within about 5 years of joining financial services, which is what I was told was going to happen. Okay, mind you, I didn't know a lot of this stuff, so I had to put my head down and just believe what they were telling me was true. And that belief turned into results. So it got to the point where, I started getting behind and I'm saying, hey, listen, guys, just work with me. I got money coming and I'm trying to ramp financial services back up. And it was too much to happen at one point in time. And I remember they came and picked my car up, and man, like this nearly broke me, because I'm sitting there like, all right, I was doing so much stuff right. Like, Lord, like what was this? What's going on in my thinking? Like, why did this happen? And then like I went and got a brand new car within like, I don't know, I think like the next day, something like that. And I'm getting like a little 2-door sports car, which is cool. But for me, that was one of the lows. But what it made me do is say, all right, great, what happened? What was the difference? Number one, I had residual income prior to, and that was never an issue. So again, when I first started financial services, it was all active income. If I don't work, I don't eat. But over the course of the building this active income, I was also building residual income, and I built a pretty substantial residual income amount that paid all my bills, plus plenty of money left over to do whatever I wanted to. And I started to build another source of income. Now, what happened is I didn't own my book of business with a financial services company. So for you, it might be owning the list. So for my network marketers, listen to me. Network marketing is great, and you can amass a lot of wealth and a lot of income. But understand, you don't own that book of business. So if the company goes belly up and you don't have a way to recapture the people that have been recruited through your efforts, you can be broke really quickly. For my internet marketers, this is the value of building your list. If it's your list, that's the traffic that you own. So now, no matter what happens, you still got this list. You can always retarget that list. That's something that I didn't really, I never thought that was going to happen. So it hit me and I had to learn. But it was one of those good life lessons, because then I started to say, all right, let me go back to my roots and let me build some stronger foundations in how I do business. Okay, how can I prevent this from happening again? I need to go deeper in my roots in terms of sources of income and things like that. And then, I can start to go up. If you think about a skyscraper, they spend way more time going deep in the ground because they need a very solid foundation. Once you get that foundation solid, the building goes up very quickly thereafter. Your finances are going to do the exact same thing. So what we target first is, let's go deep in your mind. Because if we can get deep in your mind to get a lot of these crazy paradigms out of the way and reestablish a new self-image for you, everything else happens to go really fast after that. So for me, that was probably one of my biggest financial lows, is when I got that car repo, but it was the kind of a blessing in disguise. Number one, I got a new car that was cool as well. But it made me rethink how I looked at money and what I did. And then, it was like, all right, maybe I should pay cash for the car. Now nobody can take it away from me. And that was one of the things that came about that.
Yeah, I remember that actually happened to me as well in 2008, something like that. I had this beautiful Mercedes, and they kept calling me, and finally one day they came and picked it up, and I was like,
Yeah, man. It like when I heard something beeping outside, I was like, "What is this?" And when I looked, I like ran outside and I saw the guy pulling away in my car, and I'm like, "Oh, this was not good," And I had a Jag, $636 car note. That car note was almost as much as my rent was. Probably not the best financial decision, but again, I had residual income. I had enough. Again, when you have that, you're not really thinking about. But it was just too many things that it was a black swan event of things that happened at one time, and I didn't have enough insulation.
Yes. So what has been your biggest financial win?
My biggest financial win was probably the first time I hit 100+ K in a month. Because again, remind you guys, running the country, I used to think $50,000 a year was a lot of money. And then I started running with people who made 50,000 a month. And I'm like, and I remember the first time I made like 52,000 in a quarter, I was like, wait a minute, it used to take me like over a year to produce this kind of income. And now I did it in a quarter. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Kept working, kept attracting, kept digging, and boom, I hit that first 100K month. And I'm like, ha, ha, ha. It used to take me a very long time to do that. So it's crazy how the more knowledge you get and the more you apply this stuff, the money comes a lot faster than you thought. And it kind of makes you laugh like that was crazy. I just did that. But now you go back to work and say, how do I do that faster? How do I speed up that? How do I start to collapse time and the sales cycle process or whatever to speed it up? And again, it gets fun, which is why you always hear people say the first million is always the hardest because it takes so much momentum and takes you becoming such a uniquely different person to attract that. And once you do it, it's like, okay, now the second and third and everything else comes a lot faster. And I remember, I don't know if the guy read the book or he just made a statement. He was like, everybody talks about how hard it is to make the first million. You never hear people say how long it takes the second million. So I just skipped the first, I went straight to the second million because apparently that was a lot easier. All right. So let 2 million be your target for one, so you can blow past the one, man. But that would be my biggest financial win is when I hit my first 100+ K a month.
Wow. Yeah, that's funny. I actually remember I was in the relationship space for a long time and helping, couples and individuals that wanted to improve their marriage and or relationship. And I remember I was challenging myself to charge and increase what I was charging and to demonstrate my worth, but also for myself to know what are the consequences if they don't apply, if they don't implement the things that I teach them, what will be the cost to their life? And so I kept increasing. So I would have a conversation with someone that called me and I would charge $10,000. And then the second call, I'll say, okay, now I'm going to charge $20,000. And the third, and I kept increasing it because it was a game in my head of how can I own my worth? How can I raise my worth and to own the value that I provide? And I remember the day when I made $100,000 in 1 hour. And that was kind of like, it was crazy feeling. It was like somebody said yes to my offer. They saw the value and I delivered on the value, but
that part is important. The audience, wait, say that part again, because I want to make sure people heard that. That's absolutely paramount.
Yeah, I think that's very important. You need to deliver on the value. You can't just charge something. You get
the money.
Yes. So that was very cool. But it was a weird experience, that thinking, okay, this is what I would make in a year, that I could do that in an hour. And from that on, that became, and that's how I also transitioned into helping people in business, because people started thinking, how can you do that? How can you? And it was a shift in thinking, shift in mindset. So
absolutely,
very fun.
Absolutely.
Well, we have a lot of cool stuff to share, a lot of good stuff to learn and to implement. And if you want to learn more about how you can be part of learning the strategies, the techniques, the tools, the skills, and expand your wealth, we are happy to invite you into our next challenge, our next training, and we will definitely keep you updated. So look out for the information, and when you get it, make sure you take action and make sure you follow through on it, so we can get to know you, get to share with you moments, and have a fun time together. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being part of this interview and this conversation. I love having you here. You bring so much interesting, innovative ideas and thoughts, and I'm sure people listening to this right now, their mind is blown.
Man, I love it. I appreciate the invite, man. I love to get on and share. And my hopes is something that I said today inspired you. It's just like if you ever go to a conference, they say, even if you take one good idea, that one good idea, if you can meditate on it and implement it, that one idea should pay 10 times what the value that you paid for the conference. And man, anytime I go, I try to look, what's my one idea? Sometimes it might be more than one, but normally there's at least one good idea that's going to allow you to make the money and, to continue and 10x the value of what you got from it. So hopefully there was something in there that we shared that makes you say, man, I needed that piece. And what I would say, spend some time and kind of meditate on it and go deep with that thought process and challenge yourself. Because we got to get better at challenging ourselves and asking ourselves tough questions. Because when you ask yourself tough questions, you get tough responses. And your job is to make the shift that you need to change that for the better.
So true. So true. Awesome. Beautiful, Jeff. I thank you so much. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
If you want to escape the middle class, stop thinking and acting like money is the problem, become unshakable and think like a billionaire, create billionaire habits, and evolve your mind into the rich and ultra wealthy. And I want to invite you to learn how to earn, multiply, and invest so you can cash flow and have your passive income earn your income when you're not earning income. Join our Elite Financial Tour. Go to satoriclass.com/elite. satoriclass.com/elite.